Hello everyone and welcome. Today's topic, improve print quality with expert workflow strategies. My name is Garrett Smawley, Application Specialist with Roland DGA.
And I'm David Timmerman, Regional Technical Specialist for Avery, Dennison.
All right, in this webinar, we will be surveying various factors of print production that can ultimately affect print quality. So let's start by looking at our takeaways to see how we're going to tackle this topic. We'll start by learning the basics of some color management presets in VersaWorks Dual, how these can be modified to get a little more out of your RIP process. We'll explore how equipment and media can affect print quality. We'll look at how to understand the profiling process and how it affects print production. And then, of course, developing design practices that will ensure wide color gamut and exceptional print quality. Now, to kick things off, I want to talk about how we plan to address this topic. In researching and looking into this, we sought to consider real-world experiences of production environments drawing from our own research and first-hand experience. There are many ways production, many choices that can be made in the production process, but there are always ways to look for improvements as well. There are many ways. Improving print quality starts with asking the right questions. That's what we're getting at. For instance, are we currently preparing our files in an optimal way? Is this media suitable for a given application?
And don't forget, why are we using this profile so often? And what do these color settings do? And why haven't I experimented with them?
Right. So posing these questions will allow us to assess current standards of production, gain perspective on improving these procedures. Our goal here is to identify factors of production that can ultimately get you asking these questions and make the adjustments according to your existing workflows. All right, so keep in mind, improving print quality is ultimately an extension of the value of your business, your products, your offerings, and that's the end goal of why we're looking to improve print quality. So let's kick things off and jump right into design considerations. One of the most foundational points of preparing a file for design is that, as it relates to print preparation, is color modes. We'll focus here on RGB versus CMYK. So David, can you explain to our viewers what is the difference and why might we want to design in one color mode over the other?
Yep, so RGB and CMYK, you have two different color spaces. And they'll provide you two different offerings in the color that you can achieve. So here you've got an RGB color space compared to a CMY color space, and you can tell there's a slight difference. And that slight difference might be better off depending on what you or your customer wants and expects out of their production.
That's right, and to break this down, this is an oldie but a goodie for Roland's print samples. This one's designed in RGB color mode. You can see it's a bit more vibrant. There's more rich colors there. Pretty good image. This one I intentionally saved out in a CMYK color mode. At first glance it may be acceptable, but really it doesn't carry the same vibrancy, the density of colors, and you're just losing out on potential quality there. So it's one thing to consider if you're not really consistent or aware with what you're sending to your press. Take a look at your color modes and just be aware of what you can get out of this. Now, in terms of color accuracy, there are systems called spot colors, color systems that can help us with this process. Can you explain to our viewers a little bit about these, how they can affect print quality?
Yep. Yeah, the spot colors are pre-generated colors that are within that color space that you're working with. And you can call out these colors specifically for a red or a black or a blue. And each time you create these colors, they're going to be consistent every time you produce them.
It's a great point. Repeatability and consistency is a big benefit here. Typical color systems, you'll have the Pantone color systems that are typically built into your RIPs, your design software, or available online. And then, of course, for the Roland users, we have Roland color systems. This is built right into your RIP. You can print this chart out and then access the swatch library from the design program. This enables you to find that color that you're looking to hit without any guesswork from the design side. So a great resource here. I'll give you an example of practical use here. For this one, I created a fill color of a process black. It was probably picked from like a web design palette, something that's made for digital or screen viewing. And then here's the BK21A, which is 100% black ink for the printer. So a pretty stark difference here. This one's really a true black. It's much more rich. So imagine if you're sending out text, not knowing that maybe you could be hitting a better black, more contrast. This is just one example of how these spot colors can come into play.
Great. Now these are typically for vector graphics. What do customers want to do if they're using raster images?
That's right. So for raster images or stuff provided by the customer that may not be able to utilize this library, I would suggest looking at retouching techniques. It's a big topic in and of itself, but if you look into curves, levels, some minor adjustments in Photoshop, you can really enhance an image in a short amount of time to send something a little better to your print press. So another consideration there.
Great.
Moving on to image resolution. Pull up our slide here. There are a few things designers should be mindful of when looking to optimize an image for print quality. Can we pull this one up a little larger here? The first off is resolution. That's our total number of pixels within our image. And then, of course, DPI, our number of pixels per inch. That's the density of our pixels. So David, can you talk a little bit about how building jobs correctly or more efficiently can be beneficial in regards to resolutions?
Yep, you want to make sure to choose the appropriate resolution for the application that you're using. So if you are creating for a semi-trailer or a vehicle wrap or a poster, there are differences. So you want to make sure your resolution fits the application that you're working on.
That's a great point. So if you're designing for, say, a billboard or something, you may not need a full 150 or 300 DPI image, and then the alternate goes for the same. And this kind of leads into optimizing files. It can be problematic. I mean, you always want to send your best print quality to the printer. But you also don't want to bog down production by sending, say, like a 2 gig file that's going to be very problematic to process. So one thing we suggest here in regards to file optimization is using compression. I would say going the route of a PDF format and using the various presets that they have for compression is a great way to get started with this.
Yep, and making sure you scale those images at 50%, 25% will ensure that your process through the RIP is efficient.
That's right. All right, now I'd like to touch on some aspects of planning. So in planning for these jobs, there are many considerations, but let's talk about media. On the market, there are many different types of medias, many manufacturers for different applications. It always seems to be growing and developing. Can you speak to or elaborate on some of the characteristics of quality media and maybe some of the pitfalls with subpar medias or cheap medias on the market?
Yep. Yeah, Avery Dennison prides themselves with quality material. We have localized engineers, R&D, and we make the material right here in North America. And so what that does is it customizes the durability for this region. So we make sure that it lasts. Now, if you're bringing in other material outside of the region, you struggle with, one, is it going to give you the right quality? And two, is it going to be durable for the region that you live in?
Now, how about media selection? I suppose our viewers want to get more into understanding what's available or out there. How can they go about that?
Yep, so Avery Dennison has some great marketing collateral. One is our digital media selector. And in this digital media selector, what it will do is give you a breakdown of all the different materials you can use for each application that you might be facing. And a few tips here. It will indicate, one, what type of material it is. Is it a cast product that you need that conformability and durability? Or if you want to go down to a calendared face for shorter term projects. Another important factor is it will show you the face film. Do you want a matte? Do you want a gloss? Or do you want a permanent, high-tack, or removable adhesive? So this is a great tool to understand what products that you need for that specific application.
All right. And having production experience myself, I always found it kind of amazing just how many different medias are out there and how it's constantly being developed too. You have to think that it's one of those technologies that's continuously moving. The medias are getting better, they're expanding specialty offerings. So it pays to be informed about what's out there to make well-informed decisions.
Great. And I guess another question would be is how might the printer and ink ultimately affect the print quality?
Sure, that's a great point. Well, first off, the printer specs, the ink, and the overall condition of the printer will of course have an impact on print quality as well. First off with specs, if you're using a considerably outdated printer or say a printer outside of what it was intended for, it may not be performing as well as it could be for you and maybe a pain point in your production. So looking at what printers are out there to meet your application is a great way to go about it. Alternatively, if it's not the printer, the quality of the printer, it's the maintenance of the printer. And this is probably one of the most common ones. It's easy to overlook maintenance for the printer, whether you're missing nozzles or consumables haven't been replaced. This will all go to affect print quality. And it's worth looking at because you can gain that extra benefit of having your prints come out to spec as it should, as the machine should perform when it's new.
Yep, and one thing that we get as regional technical specialists from Avery, we do get phone calls every now and then about why is my image quality looking like this or that. And I'd like to just show you a couple of print examples right here where we've got, again, we've got two different types of material, very different in how they're going to print, different applications. So you want to make sure you're using the correct profile, correct media. So when you switch from a cast, you've got a cast here, and then you've got a thick calendar here. Make sure your printer is calibrated, spec'd in, the nozzles are all open, so that you'll ensure that you get the print quality that you're looking for.
Great point. And this ties into our next point of the inks. The ink type that you're using, say the brand, these will all have an effect on the print quality. Different manufacturers will have different gamuts, consistencies, and it will affect print quality in various ways. As an example, Roland has recently launched its TrueViz series printer cutters, touting a reformulation of our inks. The TrueViz inks have a slightly wider color gamut, they're a bit more durable, and they dry quicker. So it just goes to show that each of these components is a developing technology, and they all play a role when you were looking to assess print quality. Now, transitioning from printers, medias, and inks, let's talk about RIP software. We'll get into this more in a moment, but what role does the RIP software play in production environments?
Yeah, so you have different types of RIPs out there in the market today. And for VersaWorks, it is a great tool, and it really provides you the ultimate workflow. You don't want the RIP to be the bottleneck. So we talked about image size. So make sure your size of your image is able to go through the RIP efficiently, as well as the different color settings that you can play around with each RIP. Now, if you have a larger production facility that has multiple printers, multiple cutters, there are other RIPs out there in the market that might be able to provide you more robust control of those printers, as well as some color settings.
That's a great point. And moving on into production considerations, there are a few things we want to touch on here as well, including profiles, color management, and assessing print quality. Essentially, use of profiles is another aspect of production that will affect print quality. All too often, I've seen production environments where the operator is just using a handful of small profiles, or say haven't updated their profile list from what the reseller installed upon installation. So taking that next step and looking at profiles that are out there or pairing it with the right one is really a great way to add your improved quality in that way.
Yep.
Can you refresh our viewers on what a profile is and say how this affects the print process?
Yep. Yeah, the profile is a color identity tag, really. So what you have is, again, and I'll go to the example here in the front here. Here we have a cast product, which is a gloss finish, a gloss face, much thinner, and the profile is built specifically for this face film, and so this profile might not take on as much ink. And that is one item with the MPI 1105 is it is designed to utilize the least amount of ink possible to give you the biggest color gamut that you can achieve. Now we've got, so this is a cast profile, and if you move to a calendared film, you don't want to use the cast profile because now you've got a calendared film that is much thicker, a different face. This is a matte finish. And so you want to be careful in choosing the right profile for the right product. So again, try to match that up. Now, if there's not a profile out there, you want to match up matte finish and a calendared product. And again, if there's not a cast profile available, look for a cast product with a gloss finish. Match those up, and those will give you the best optimal color output.
All right, and if you're unsure of where to find these profiles, I would encourage you to visit Roland Profile Center, or Avery Dennison has a profile finder as well on their website. Both great resources on not only finding the profiles, but learning how to install them, and again, taking that next step in your production process. Now, in addition to pairing your media with the correct profile, there are typically some presets that you can use within the profile setting of your RIP. Different RIPs house this in different areas, but for Roland VersaWorks Dual, this can be found at the bottom of the profile selecting menu under the Quality tab. It defaults at Prepress US, but there are a number of useful presets that you can use to modify or tweak the color output. Typically, I favor the Sign and Display preset. It tends to yield more bright and vivid graphics, so that works for me in a lot of cases. Alternatively, there is a preset called Max Impact, which carries a bit heavier ink load, will yield bold, like heavy colors, and that's a good one for solid fills or maybe some of those challenging colors. So some great resources there to touch on. And again, this is just another way to modify your color or say explore it a bit further. And then next up, we want to look at assessing print quality. So we've touched on a lot of aspects that affect print quality throughout the production pipeline, but another is getting eyes on your prints, seeing what's coming off of the press, and training your staff and team to vet these graphics before they go out the door. Look for things like banding or ink droplets modeling on the prints, things that maybe are tied to maintenance or should be looked after in terms of the print process. So again, training your team to look for these things will help vet those graphics before they go out as a finished piece out your door. This all goes to reflect on the value of your output and your business and extension. All right, in recap, in closing, I'd like to touch on some of the main points we've discussed here today. We've touched on color modes, spot color systems, resolutions, and formats, how all these pre-pressed design components can go to affect what you're sending to your printer. We've outlined some of the pros of using quality medias, printers, and ink, how maintenance can be a critical role in keeping your machine running at top quality. We've then touched on RIP softwares, profiles, and color management presets, noting how these can be used to fine-tune your print process and ultimately maximize what your machine can deliver for you. In closing, I hope that this survey of information really opens your eyes and gets you inspired to start asking these questions that we touched on in the beginning, to look at your process a different way and make those adjustments accordingly to, again, improve print quality.
Great. And now it's time to answer any questions that you might have had during the webinar. And don't forget to stay on after and answer any questions or give us some topics for future webinars.
All right. And of course, a little notification here, heads up, we have a Born to Rap workshop coming up November 7th and 8th in Irvine, California at our headquarters. With this workshop, you will have hands-on experience rapping with professionals in the industry. This will be featuring Avery, Dennison Media, and it should be a great time, so I encourage you to look into this or register at our website. All right, thank you.
Thank you.